Here we go. So welcome everyone to our, I think this is our fourth session on Palestine and Israel. The first one we had with Dr. Maria Corey, the last two we've had with Father Gerasimos, and this is the third and most likely the final one. But you know, we just enjoyed this trip so much, we might just extend it one more time. So Father, would you start us off, since we're starting just a little bit late, start us off right away with the prayer, and then I'll bring up the slides.
Most holy Theotokos, save us. You are more honorable than the cherubim, and beyond compare more glorious than the seraphim. Without corruption gave birth to God, the Word. Magnify the truth, Theotokos. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father.
Thank you too.
Okay. I'm going to optimize it for video and sound because there's a couple of video clips in all of this. Let's go right to how do I access I think I have to move this down a little bit. How do I access, here we go, picture tool, manage slideshow. And I will very quickly, if I'm able to. Edit, fast forward us through all of our slides. To where we left off last. Now I'm going too quickly. I'm not even going to try to name all of these things. It would just slow us down. But this is a kind of quick review of all that we've seen so far. It's so funny to me, out of all the pictures, when the Zoom chose one picture to be like the cover picture for last week's one, it shows that picture of me looking a little bit like a spy with my my scufo in between two columns. All right, we still covered all of this last time. There's more of Capernaum. Here we are in the Sea of Galilee. Here we are at Cana of Galilee. Here we are back at the Church of the Apostles.
I'm not seeing anything except your thumbnails. That's what I'm seeing. I'm not sure if the rest of the people are seeing that also.
Oh no! Oh no! All right, I'm doing something wrong.
Just thumbnails.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Only the thumbnails.
Where's the thumbnail?
Okay, here we go again. What did I do last time that it made me be able to show? Oh, I remember. Photo slide viewer. Here we go. All right. Now can everybody see? Are you seeing the pictures?
Yes, now we're seeing the pictures.
All right. So we'll keep going. Oh, we did this too. This is the Mount of Temptation. Sarandario, the Mount of the 40 days. And is this where we stopped, the Church of Nativity? I think so.
I believe so, yes. That's where we're about to start the Church of Nativity, yes. The last scene was the floor.
No, there was a way for me to. I want to go backwards. There we go.
That's it, yeah.
And now I think I can pause. All right. So, Father, where are we now?
So yeah, this is the church of in Bethlehem, and we can see the amazing original floors. And this is the only church that still remains from Saint Helen that was not destroyed. And I believe Justinian kind of redid it again with all those beautiful mosaics. And the reason why it was not destroyed is because it was when the Persians came in, as we know, that it was in the year 614, the Persians had come and did a massive destruction of the Holy Land. And when the Persians came to the actual place of Jesus Christ's birth, they saw the iconography in which they, I would say, they saw the Magi. And because they were the Magi, they were saying, oh, this is people who respected our people. And therefore the church itself was not destroyed. So it is one of we can see the kind of the glory of a big basilica and the ornate iconography that is found there. This picture here is very interesting. This is the entrance to the actual church itself. The actual church itself had a massive door, but as through the centuries, because of different raids and so forth, the door became small and smaller to the point you kind of have to stoop in to go inside. Because to keep people from riding in, the conquerors riding in on horseback. So the doors actually became much small, much more lower, so that would not be the case.
It's the entrance that leads up to the monastery. The Bethlehem is one of the churches that actually has a brotherhood of monks, right, Father? There's maybe like 20 monks staying there.
I do not know the number, but there's definitely monks who actually live here. And yes, this is on the south side of the church, so it's really by the altar. And if you climb up the stairs, it goes to a courtyard. And the best part about that courtyard also is that's where they have the cave of the infants. So as we know that when I don't know if you probably have pictures of it later on.
We
This
do.
icon, yeah, this icon is very pretty. It's one of the best things. This is Panagia of Bethlehem. And it kind of shows like, okay, she's like very happy, a mom who just gave birth to a child, and you can see the joy of her as she has given birth to a child. Of course, Jesus Christ is regular size, but it's called Panagia Vithlemitisa.
Father, were we together when I heard the story from some of the monks there about the miracle that happened with Vithlemitisa?
Maybe, but you're better when it comes to stories. Okay, I'm more of the facts and other stuff like that. So yeah, sure, go ahead. This is
okay. If you will allow me. So
I allow you.
There was a young couple that came, and they were Muslim, and they came into the church, and you could see they really didn't know exactly what to do, but they were looking all around, and one of the monks approached them and asked if he could help them, and the Muslim woman said that she was looking for a woman, and this woman had said, "Come and see me at this place in Bethlehem, and I will help you to have a child." So the monk understood that it must have been the Pania who appeared. So he brought them in front of the icon of Vithlemitisa, and they prayed. They prayed in front of the Muslims have reverence for Christ, for the Mother of God. They're mentioned in the Quran for even St. George, and then they left, and sure enough, they conceived. And when they had a child, they came back to thank her. And when they came back, the Mother of God appeared to them in the church, walked them and talked to them about how they needed now to come to understand that her son is God, and he's the one who's given them this child. And they needed now to follow him. And she walked them right up to this icon, and then she went up and into the icon. She disappeared. They saw her like a woman, walking and talking with them, and then she disappears and goes up and into the icon and disappears in front of them. And
I never knew the story.
Amazing story, yeah.
Beautiful, Father. Thank you. No, I did not hear that story, so that's great that you shared that.
So right to the left of the icon, this is the stairway that leads down to the actual grotto. That's what we're seeing, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's under the altar, and that's very typical to have usually the most sacred things, and then on top of it, that becomes the focal point. So right above the actual cave where Jesus Christ was born in, as we know that he was the grotto for us was a cave, and it was the place that Jesus Christ was born. So right above the cave is where the actual altar area is. So you go right under the altar, the steps, and that's where we're heading to now. So under the altar in the cave area, there is this the actual place where Jesus Christ was born. You might say, how do you know? How do you know? We know because we have a living tradition, and the star is there placed. And so right now we're seeing there's a little chapel in the actual cave, and above this, what you see is the altar table. Uh, and actually, it's the altar table. So they actually do liturgies down here too. And there's beautiful iconography, which I never noticed this. First time I noticed the iconography down there. And they have the candelia over in there. What you see on the other picture, the next picture, is the manger where, not that one, that one. It's
Yeah.
right opposite, and that's where Jesus Christ was first laid, and that's where where they place where the animals eat. So they have like a little place of veneration there too.
So the actual place is where the star where he was born, and then they placed him in the manger, right?
And this
So
is back up above the grotto. This is the solea and the hiero of the Church of Bethlehem. As was our custom, we sang the hymn of the Nativity. We ran one of the gospel accounts of Christ's birth, and then prayed for the abbot of the monastery and the brothers. Gave them names to write down to pray for. There's a pretty good view, right, Father? You can kind of see.
well, this is from the little balcony we saw beforehand. So I'm looking down, and you can see the icon screen to the right. And it's a really huge church. And if you see all the way on top, there's the old mosaics on the actual walls, both right above, higher up, all the way to the top of the picture, right there, and on the other side too. So these are all the ancient mosaics of the church. So this church, in comparison to many others, is really in good shape.
There was another church that another group that I had with me got to visit, and that was the church where Christ healed the 10 lepers in Burkina. And I was actually showing it to our vacation church school kids today, because the gospel reading that we did, we were focusing on thanking God and needing to thank God for all things. And so I took them on a little tour, like to that church, and showed them a short video clip. It's all made out of stone. It looks similar to all of this, but maybe even rougher. And it is considered one of the earliest existing still churches in history. Now we've gone out that courtyard, and we're going to the chapel, right, of the Holy Infants.
As we know, and we celebrate on the 29th of December, which is we celebrate the 14,000 innocent children, basically the first children, or the first kind of new martyrs, because they died for Christ, even though they did not confess Christ, but they died for Christ. The church considers them as holy saints, and we can see Christ in the icon, which of course this is a new icon, with the souls of all the children that he blesses them. So here is St. Helen gathered, there were many different little tombs, and so she gathered all the bones and made this chapel here. And some of the skulls are of older people, and that is because the moms sometimes were killed as they did not refuse to give over their children to the Roman soldiers. So in here, there's different little crypts with a lot of different bones. And here is one of the little crypts and cave areas that I don't know if you have a picture of the actual bones, but they're down here.
Yeah, so when you go and you look at all these skulls and you say, well, those don't look like skulls of babies. They look, and bones, they look like, but it's understood that many other people died as well as the 14,000 in trying to prevent the death. But we have a picture. This is the relic. This is one of the reliquaries that has just a few of the very small bones. I guess I don't have a better picture of it than that, Father.
It's okay.
The little tiny baby bones.
You have to go there to see the real thing.
Yeah, but everything's all kind of gathered together in here.
Oh, look at the skull.
What this shows is that there were this whole complex of graves that were dug, right, where they were buried, and it was only in recent times that many of these have been exhumed, if I remember correctly.
I knew recently I also had, well, recently back when I was a younger child, I had a friend who was the sister of the Patriarch of Jerusalem, and she actually gave me relics of these infants because of the recent excavation. So there were new relics of the baby infants, and I had them in my house, and for years, now they stopped, but for years, oil would accumulate in the relic case for years from the little infants. So that's one personal story about these the relics of the little infants.
When I visited Father Athanasios Gikis in Kalamaria in Thessaloniki, once we visited, and he had gone on a pilgrimage with some of the fathers from Simonopatra to the Holy Land, and had a small reliquary of some of the bones of the infants, and they were extremely fragrant, Father. I remember that.
Yes.
But you had it just streamed myrrh for you, huh?
Yeah, it would accumulate at the bottom. It was interesting. The relics themselves were dry, but at the bottom of the relic case was always oil. And I would, anoint people, and then it would gather again.
And see, in this I can hear you see, the slaughter of the infants, their bodies on the ground in this icon. So this next picture, I believe, is now the monastery that's attached, right, to Bethlehem. And this is the monastery of Saint Jerome.
So
that was a flourishing monastery, right?
Well, the Roman Catholics. So while we have the main church, even though the main church is sections of it is shared, just like the Church of Jerusalem. There's a little corner that belongs to the Armenians, and sometimes there's fighting going on. But you have to realize that people are fighting because the other denominations are trying to take it away from us. The Roman Catholics have this huge complex. Again, may they have the funds exactly to the north, touching to the church on the north side of the church, which is, as we're looking at the church to the left side, that this mega complex of a Roman Catholic Church. But we do have here in this complex Saint Jerome, who is an Orthodox saint, but he was of the West, and a great church father, one of the church fathers of the West. He translated many things, and actually he lived in the cave of the grotto, and there was a connection to his cave to the grotto interiorly. So that's the reason why we have Saint Jerome right here right next to the church in Bethlehem.
Sometimes I tell the story, Father, at Christmas about Saint Jerome and how the Lord appeared to him one Christmas Eve and said, "What are you going to give me for my birthday?" And Saint Jerome said to him, "Lord, what am I going to give you? I give you my scholarship." He translated the scriptures, the whole of the Old Testament from Greek into Latin. And that's the official text of the Roman Catholic Church to this day, the Vulgate, right? And he, like you said, he did wrote so many other works and translations. And the Lord said, well, that's not what I want. And he became concerned. He said, Lord, I give you my industry. Look at all this monastery that I've built and all this, everything that I've done here. And the Lord said, I'm not, that's nice, but it's not what I want. And then he said, Lord, I give you my devotion, my heart. I live for you. You are my everything. And the Lord said, that's not what I want. And so, kind of exasperated, Jerome said, Lord, what do you want from me? And he said, Hieronymus, Jerome, I want you to give me your sins. And Saint Jerome, shouts back, no, Lord, not those. And he said, yes, I want you to give them to me so you won't carry the burden of them any longer, so I can relieve you of them. Such a wonderful story, huh?
That's beautiful.
That's what you really want.
And sometimes it's the hardest thing to give up.
Yeah. I think these are more just pictures of the is that still the complex there in Bethlehem, Father? Did we lose you, Father Gerasimos? Uh-oh. Can anybody else hear me?
I can hear you, Father.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know where everybody else went. I'm going to stop the share for a moment. I'll wait until Father can join back in.
Desk 3.
Who is desk 3? Is that you, Father Erasmus?
See, Father.
Father Erasmus, is that you? Could I ask who is desk 3? We're going to pause the recording. Did it just pause?
I think it was Father last time.
Record. I'm going to spot.
Okay. And I'll start sharing again then. So I was asking a question. So these are just other views from the monastery there in Bethlehem.
You lost him again?
No, I can hear you. Father, can you hear and see?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm fine.
Oh, no, we are now in the desert of the Palestinian desert, right? Is this
It looks like Saint Jose.
Oh, Hoseva Monastery, okay.
Maybe, but if you continue, we'll see what this is.
Looks like Saint
Oh, actually, this looks like Saint Savas Monastery.
It does. St. Savas is this huge ravine, and what we're looking at from the monastery across the way are the various cells of hundreds and hundreds of cells of monks. I think this is where I have a video. No, this is still pictures of maybe those pictures were out of place, but this is the cave of the Magi. Oh,
yeah. So before as we go into both these caves, this is Saint Theodosius.
Oh, Saint Theodosius, the Canoviar, right? On the way to
about 10 miles east of Bethlehem, we encountered first the monastery of Saint Theodosius. So right now there might be a mix, these two pictures between the two. From Saint Theodosius, we go further into the desert, where we have Saint Savas Monastery. So the previous ones was from Saint Savas Monastery, from the balcony looking across in the ravine. But we'll come back to that. Saint Theodosius Monastery is what's also famous about it. It has the cave of the Magi And basically, as we know from the Bible, is that after that Herod wanted to kill Jesus Christ, and he asked the Magi to say, "Come back and tell me where he is at." But an angel appeared to the Magi and says, "Go back to your place from a different way." So they fled and they stayed there overnight. So in this spilio, or in this cave of the Magi, which is found in the monastery of Saint Theodosius, it has a lot of relics there of different saints. One thing I want to say is that Palestine was one of the hubs for monastic life. After there were like 30,000 monks and so forth in these areas, just like Mount Athos is a hub, and Egypt was a hub, and so forth. So there's a lot of monasteries used to be here, but both Saint Theodosius Monastery and Sichos of Vaz, I don't know if you already showed that, and other places of that nature are phenomenal monasteries. But the only one that kind of really reflects the ancient, well, I can't say the only one, but Saint Salvas is the most important for many, many reasons, which we'll talk later.
So here are some of the other relics of other saints at the Cave of the Magi.
So that's Saint Theodosius himself.
It's
This is, I'm not sure which Maria this is.
The mother of Saints Arcados and John, the wife of Xenophondos.
Okay.
Saint John Moscos.
That's her the husband. Oyanes, Maria,
You know, as we're seeing this beautiful saint, Saint Theodota, which is the mother of Cosmas Damianos. Okay. You know, a miracle happened here when I was with another group. You know, actually, she wasn't even Orthodox. She was a Protestant person who had cancer. And she really is a very strong believer. And she asked the Yerunda there, says, "Please pray for me." And he said with determination and with no hesitancy, says, "Shed a tear here, right here, and you will go back and you won't have no more cancer." And true enough, she did shed a tear, and true enough, when she came back, she had no more cancer.
She was cancer free.
Wow. I wonder if that's still the same Igumenos who's there now.
It might be. You can see here, you know, Saint Sophia, the Saint of Lugia, the mother of Saint Theodosius, and Saint Sophia was the mother of Saint Salva the Sanctified. So it's nice that these two moms' relics are here, and not just their relics; their tombs are here. Yeah. This is the actual monastery from the outside, and you can see the cave is in the front. So what you're seeing here, that's the entrance to the cave, and below, that's where you see the skylights. And to the left, Father, too, right there, yeah.
Which is the cave, Father? The entrance,
This is
the
right
other
here.
one,
That's the
right?
cave, yeah.
When did the entrance?
The cave's over here, and then this is the main church.
Right. And he also, the Father there, which I forgot, I'm very bad with names, Father. Right, Father Steve, I mean Father John, I mean Father Theodore. I say he always gives out relics because
He
there's
does.
martyrs that were killed here in Saint Theodosius. By the way, the neighborhood here is very anti-Christian, so they really have to be very careful.
Yeah, we go in and out of this fence very quickly from the bus. But it's also where we pick up the smaller buses that take us down to St. Salvas.
But this now, we're not anymore in Saint Theodosius. This is now the place of the shepherds. So this town, which is about 3 miles away from Saint Theodosius, this town is very pro-Christian, and that's why. And there's a beautiful monk here who has made amazing progress here, and this is where the shepherds were in the field to see, and where the angels appeared, and he said, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill among all." Yeah. So this is where the shepherds were. Somehow,
Father, I think we missed some slides from St. Salva's Monastery, because I know I had a video. I'm just going to go back quickly and see if there was something else that I could have clicked on.
Definitely, this is just only definitely missing things from St. Salva's.
I had a like a video that would play, but it's not here. Maybe we'll get back to St. Salva later. So now here we are at the Shepherd's Fields.
What's the
And
word?
Father Ignatius is this monk who came as a visitor for 2 weeks, and the abbot at St. Sava's Monastery was there, or the former abbot, but he was still a holy man, was there, and he said, "You're going to succeed me here and be the caretaker." And he had only come as a pilgrim, and he wasn't planning on staying. But sure enough, by the end of his stay, he knew that this is what God wanted him to do. And he's been there ever since.
So this is below the surface, and this little chapel is the actual cave. And this is where also the three magi are buried. And there's a beautiful, beautiful scent. And we talked about scents in the last time, but there's a little bit different scent here. And
Is it
there's,
where the Magi are buried or where the shepherds are buried?
I'm sorry, you're right. The
The
shepherds.
shepherds. Yeah.
Yes, I apologize.
This is Father Ignatius. There's a lot of video. He talks about the Holy Land. He's been interviewed, and I've heard some wonderful things. He's published some really wonderful books. Here's our whole group with him.
And here has an ancient floor again, so you can see actually ruins of the mosaics in the bottom. There's like glass places you can see. And I remember there was a big miracle here that happened with St. George, if you remember. I don't know, Father. You
I
remember this
do.
miracle? Can you relate it to us? Because I remember you're better a story person than me.
Father Ignatius had prepared a kind of a little brochure that was a little bigger than 8.5 by 11 and had some sheets on it with a number of miracles that happened here. But this miracle that happened with St. George was that some pilgrims had come to go into the monastery, and it was early, and the monks were not there, and the caretaker of the monastery, the person who just the sacristan, the Neokoros, they found him, and so he went to open up the church for them to be able to go down and in to venerate. And when they walked down and in, they saw that the church was absolutely full, and that the divine liturgy was being celebrated. And as they continued to watch the liturgy, let's go back to a picture of when we were in the church. When they continued to watch this liturgy happening, they began to realize that this was all a vision. This was a heavenly liturgy, and that everyone that was in the church were saints of the church, and that they could make out the hierarchs. And then they realized that the Mother of God was actually in the church, in the altar as well, in this liturgy. And then someone came in the door where they were standing, and he was wet and covered with water, and the water actually came off onto them. They felt the water as he came in, and he approached the Mother of God, and it was St. George, and he apologized to the Mother of God or something along those lines, but why he had arrived late, but he was saving somebody from drowning in a boat that had capsized or something along those lines. And at the end of the liturgy, everyone that was there went forward. All these saints that were there in this vision of a liturgy came forward and received an vivero from the Mother of God. And then the vision disappeared, and they were left all alone in the church. Truly remarkable. That happened in like the 1920s or something like that.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
These are relics.
Seeing the skulls like this, I mean, for us Orthodox people, like, oh, look at this skull, look at that skull, But imagine for people who are not Orthodox Christians,
Yeah, freaks them out.
like, oh,
Oh, look at the lines of the skull, Father. If they're a priest or if they're a monk, they have lines across the skull.
We can see these lines also. They say that usually there's like three. You see, like there's like a T there. But if a person is a clergy, it goes all the way down across. So he actually has an actual cross on top of his head. So that line that stops there.
They have a line going across, but the priest Has a line going across all around and
Coming
starting
down
from
all
the
the way
forehead
there.
all the way to the nape of his neck, the back of his neck.
And it's not cracked. It's the natural thing about the skull.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Is this still there? Or are we now entering into the holy city?
I think we're entering now into the Jerusalem, yes.
Yeah.
So we're in Jerusalem. Have you entered before in Jerusalem, or this is the first time, Father, in the pictures?
This is our first time going in. We were on Mount Zion before,
All right,
but
okay.
we didn't go into the city.
So a lot of these walls have been, of course, refixed again, but the ancient city is still has surrounded by walls and beautiful. I think like there's 12 gates, official gates. That was on the western side of the city. Now the city continues. Now it's a modern city with high rises, not like in skyscrapers or anything like that. But this is how we enter the city. And just for the fun of it, the reason why there's holes on top of there is people would pour oil or shoot down at you. That's the reason why they have those. That was for the guns. And right above the door is people would put boiling oil. So as you try to enter the city wall, it would burn you. And the entrance is never straight. You go in and then turn left. You see over there, so you can actually not just simply ram in there.
Ah, interesting.
So it's a kind of like a maze here, and so you have to have your GPS oriented person. That was a Kuluya, that was a breakfast many times. And just there's 4 quarters of the city. The northwest is the Christian quarter, which is basically Orthodox, but also Roman Catholics are there. The southwest is the Armenian quarter, which are Christians, but they're the non-Chalcedonian Monophysite Christians. The northeast corner of the city is Muslim, and the south east corner is Israeli. So that's how the city is divided. So therefore, in the northwest corner, that was where the tomb of Christ is, and the Golgotha, and all these beautiful things.
They all live within these walls, and they have to get along with each other. Even though they all have different faiths. It's quite remarkable. I remember hearing the patriarch talk about this once and saying, we have true ecumenism here in Jerusalem, because we have to be able to respect each other, even if we disagree so strongly on our religious beliefs and practices.
Within the city also, there's a lot of small monasteries. If you have the time to see all of them, that'd be great. One that's more popular is the one that we'll go see here, which is Iramoni Panagias, Megalis Panagias. And this is on a hill. This again, all this is in the city, but that it's on a hill, and then you go down, then go up the other hill, which is Golgotha. So according to the tradition of the church, here at Megali Panagia is one of the places that Panagia had seen her son on the cross. We know that she was by his side also at Golgotha, and she had fainted here. So that's why it's called Megali Panagia, because maybe of the Megali Phoni, or she cried aloud and so forth. But also in this monastery with Megali Panagia, we have on top here the church, which and has it's for nuns, and it has some nice interesting relics there. One of them is Tunam, which is the Muslim who saw the miracle of the holy light, and he eventually converted, but he was killed. But and underneath this, if you go once, probably have pictures later on, underneath this church is the place where Saint Melanie, which celebrates on the 31st of December. That's where she had her place of asceticism. We'll see that probably later on.
Some of the relics here are just behind where the people are. And this Kavuklian right here, I think, have some of the relics that Father was talking about. Here the people just listening to the stories.
Exhausted.
That Yerondis Melani was telling us. Her name is Melani, and she's at the monastery where Saint Melani was at. So is this the reliquary that has the person you were mentioning, the Muslim who was thrown off of the?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so now. Not exactly where it is, but it's here.
There's his icon, right?
An icon.
Yes,
There's the icon of him.
And you can see the fire coming out of the column that he witnessed, and seeing that great miracle, he professed that Christ was the true God.
So basically, since we have that beautiful icon, and we'll see that the real thing in person, but here,
His
here,
first name again, I forgot.
here is the story. But he was the imam who, opposite of the Church of the Resurrection, is a mosque, and he had gone up to do the actual call. And they pray 5 times a day, and he was the one that he would call out and call for prayer that the Islamic people have. Well, during that year, and I forgot what year it was, you probably have in your nose, like in the 1600s, the Armenians wanted to take control of the Church of the Resurrection, and which are Christians, and they locked out the Orthodox Patriarch from bringing the holy light. So he was in the courtyard, and as that happened, the patriarch was with the Orthodox people were praying on the outside of the church, and the holy light, zapped through the tomb of Christ and broke through the column, and that's where he saw the light. And therefore now he was on the minaret seeing this, Saint Tunan, okay, Saint Tunan, and he professed that the true God is a Christian God, and the Muslim people ran up and threw him off the minaret, and I believe he survived the fall, but he was beaten up and killed, and so forth.
Yes,
so
he
therefore
did
he
survive the
became
fall.
he became a martyr. You can actually see Ius Martis Tunom, o hero something.
No, he survived the fall, which was very, very high. But then they killed him regardless.
So besides him being, pronounced here, also the miracle that happened at the Holy Land, and we'll actually see the crack in the column, which is actually interesting crack because it's like vertical, the crack, and usually when columns crack, they're horizontal. So and therefore definitely it's something that even proclaims the miracle.
And it's clearly it's not a crack as much as you can see like the stone is like melted. Once we get there, you'll be able to see. But now we're going down to the cell of Saint Melanie, right?
Yep.
This is where her body is buried.
How's it tomb?
It was a secret passage, right, from this church that went all the way into the Holy Sepulchre, and she would go into the sepulchre at nights and pray there secretly.
And you can see that. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you too.
I mean, these are the chains on the wall, and she would tie herself to the wall so she won't sleep flat, but she would sleep upright. So she won't give any comfort to her body to fight the passions and to fight the demons. So it makes us, realize, what luxuries we have and how much love they had for God, that they would do these things.
Yeah. Now, moving on, I think we're going towards the Holy Sepulchre now.
Yeah, so you can see we're descending from the hill, and then the Golgotha itself is a hill. So it's kind of an interesting church that the entrance of the church is on the south side. So as you walk in, but this is St. Helen built the original church. It has been destroyed, rebuilt, all those details I don't know. I would have to look at my notes, but multiple times. So therefore, the courtyard of the church on the south side, and as you walk in the church, first of all, before you walk in, you would see the actual column we talked about. And then just to give an idea, so as you walk in, is a church surrounded by a bigger church. And there's a church and there's a corridor that goes around. And in that corridor, you'll find Golgotha, you will find the tomb of Christ, and also where Jesus Christ was taken down by the cross, and also where the cross was found by St. Helen after the 4th century. So all these things are here. We're not yet, see an example of a little monastery that is right by the courtyard entering the Church of the Resurrection. It's
the Metochion of Gethsemane. It's not at Gethsemane, but it houses the kind of the epitaphios that they have of the Virgin Mary, right? And they people come and venerate it here And then at the Feast of the Remission on the old calendar, so they haven't done this yet this year, they take this procession with this down to the Dormition, right? The patriarch, and it's a huge thing. Thousands and thousands of people participate in this procession for the Feast of the Remission. So this is the minaret, right, Father?
Yes. So right now we're in the courtyard. It's also another thing as we're in the courtyard, and also realizing that really this church, which is called the Church of the Resurrection in the Greek Orthodox world, it's really the rest of the world calls the Church of the Sepulchre, which means the Church of the Tomb. Okay, but just a little bit of nuance. But all around hugging the Church of the Resurrection is the Patriarchate of Jerusalem. So I kind of really realized that, this is ours. It's not just simply, one of the sites, that we have the most holiest sites up there. And actually, for me, I was born and raised Orthodox. Well, I wasn't born Orthodox, but I was baptized at a young age. But how we say it, it makes you realize when you go there that, you know what, the Orthodox faith is the truth, because we have these things from the very beginning. And it wasn't like we came and conquered these places, but these are our places. So it's nice to see that, especially with the Patriarchate.
What I want to do, Father, is just get to that picture that I shared with the invite for this meeting tonight. Let's see, where is it now?
I like that.
Okay, here it is. Okay. So let's go back to the Zoom. Wait, put this down for a second. Okay. Is this it? Yeah. Then go backwards to. So this picture right here, can everyone see that picture? Are you seeing this? That picture? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
This is from the other side. This is like the backside of the Holy Sepulchre, right? So, Father, explain right here, or this dome right here is where the Holy Sepulchre is. Is that correct?
So right. So there's two domes in the building, and the one dome is the one on the. Let's go with the one on the right first. Right. So you can see that's the church. That's the main part of the church. And then there's another dome, right? Go to the right first.
Mhm.
Down. And that's where Golgotha is, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah, right.
yes, right there. So
Yes.
and then if you go to the left, the big dome is where the tomb of Christ is.
So
Okay.
this is actually the same view, and right down here is the courtyard where you were seeing all those pictures before that we were standing in, and that we're going to return to. But this is kind of the view from above as you enter into the church.
Yes, that's a very beautiful picture, and that's a bell tower on to the left. Right there. Yeah, right there. That's the bell tower.
And
And
that's
then if
the
you go
church.
to the right from the bell tower to the left, there's a little like a balcony there. So all
Mhm.
that balcony that belongs to the Patriarchate, and it hugs all around behind the tomb. So if you're in you see there's a staircase that leads to the dome, the big dome. You see that, and therefore from the Patriarchate you can actually look into the church from the top part. So it's just an interesting fact that you can see. There's a little small on the left side of the actual bell tower. There's another dome. You see that right there? No, right there, right squished in there, right there. Okay, and that's the Church of St. Constantine in Helen, which is the Greek Orthodox parish where the Greek people celebrate. You also can do a service within the actual church of the Tomb of Resurrection, but that's usually done like the midnight where there's less people. But like on the Sunday mornings and the big feast days, that's where the Greek people, because there's also Arab-speaking people, gather. So just a little bit of an idea of the life there.
Also show the part with Mary Magdalene, Mimoabdu, and it's the Church of Saint Jacobus.
Well, that's Father's concern.
So here's the column now, right, Father?
Yep, exactly. So you see, that's not a natural crack, because otherwise that would collapse. So you can see like it was sliced. It's like that's a slice. That's not a. And you actually you're right, Father. It's like the whole thing is missing, and it looks even burnt. You see, so it's definitely
Inexplicable.
a non-natural, unnatural crack of a
Right.
column.
They wouldn't have built it like that, obviously. You know, here's the columns on the other side.
Yeah.
So here's the place where they wrapped Christ, right? What do they call that? The stone,
Well, is that they took him down, apokathilosis, or taken down from the cross. So you can see the actual imagery on the icon there. So it's kind of cool the way that it's on the mosaic there, that it is taken down from the cross, and then there is he's put it on and anointed, and then he is put in the tomb to the left. And that's exactly the same lineup. So, and the wall that you're seeing there, this mosaic is the southern side of the interior church. So there's a church, and then around there's a whole corridor and another big church. So you can actually walk around the interior church, if that makes sense.
And Golgotha is right over here.
Right.
Stairs that lead up to the right, and then to go to see the Holy Sepulchre, it's over there.
Exactly. And somebody might ask, Father, come on, how can the Golgotha and the tomb of Christ is so close to each other? But if we look at the Gospel of John, only Gospel of John makes reference to that, and it says, and nearby it says, there was a new tomb, and he was laid there. So definitely, the Gospel of John captures the reality that the tomb of Christ was next to Golgotha.
Well, Golgotha itself was once a like a mining area, right? But they had turned it into graves, and the graves, the tombs of people would be carved out of the stone, so they would like create these caves where people would be buried. So it was like a garden area. So there's a wonderful book. I don't know, Father, did you ever see that book on the Holy Fire?
We have it at home.
Right here, but it has these great pictures. I'm going to stop this share for a second so everyone can see me. Here's the book, and I'm going to hold this up closely. This is a picture on the back of the book, and it shows kind of Golgotha from above. And then you can see like the garden areas on the other side, and you can understand how it was that it was so close. Have you seen that book before, Father? Holy Fire?
No,
I
but
have it at home.
is
by
that the
my
one with
night
the priest who snuck into the there and he saw the light?
This is more recent. Haris Skarlakidis came out with it, and it's an amazing historical research book of 70 different historical accounts from all people that came from all over the world to the Holy Land, of all different backgrounds and religions and so forth throughout the centuries, all attesting to the miracle of the Holy Fire.
Could you put that in the chat?
I got that. You can find that online. You just Google it, or Amazon. You can find it. But I buy it every time when I'm there because it's cheaper in Jerusalem. It's one of my favorite books, just to read through that. It's like a history of Orthodoxy at the same time.
So this is the actual slab where Jesus Christ was laid on and he was anointed. And because of that, people do, and this is the only place that really that it happens, people do bring sweet smelling perfumes and pour it on there for a blessing, and then people wipe it up. But having said that, even though people bring different perfumes here, you might say, oh, that's, but that scent, that unique scent that I mentioned last time, is found here, but it's also found in other places that nobody puts any perfumes. So you might say, oh, Father, it's only perfumes. No, because like I said to you before in my previous meetings, it was, I was in the middle of a street, in the middle of a courtyard that priest wasn't even expecting us to be. I was in the middle of a Muslim-owned place, so definitely it's this beautiful, sweet scent that is found here, more obviously, but also throughout the places of Jesus Christ.
Now, this is
This
one
looks
of,
like, yeah, go ahead.
is this behind the Holy Sepulchre?
This is behind the Holy Sepulchre. So even though this really building belongs to us as Orthodox Christians, through the centuries, also they have other 5 chapels that belong to other Christian groups. So right behind the Holy Sepulchre belongs to the Coptics, a little chapel. So you see, they only have the little chapel thing here. On the north side is the Roman Catholics. On the south side is the Armenians. And on the outside, for people, are the Ethiopian Christians and so forth. So this is where it is. But the main church that we talked about before is the Orthodox, and only Orthodox are allowed to do a liturgy within the actual sepulchre itself, the actual tomb itself. So these are the columns that support the big dome that we saw before, and under the big dome is the actual tomb of Christ. So this is supporting the columns, and this is the actual tomb of Christ. So I'm standing facing now west. So behind me is the main Orthodox church, and we can see here the entrance with all the candelia. And what's as a Greek, not that you have to be Greek, but is very proud to be as a Greek, that the writings are all written in Greek. So it's nice to do that. All of this was reconstructed recently by the British because it was about to collapse, and National Geographic covered this. And actually, there's a beautiful magazine, I forgot what year, like 3 years ago, before the coronavirus, that covered the excavations and the reconstruction of this Kuvuklion, or chapel for the tomb of Christ. And they, of course, they use scientific language, but it says that most likely this is the tomb of Christ because of the findings that they have. So that's nice that even National Geographic kind of confessed this is the actual tomb of Christ.
Well, yeah, the stone, the actual stone was, clearly the kind of stone that would have been used to have carved out graves, and it dated to that time. And why it's so hard for us to kind of picture it is that most of the tomb has been removed in order to build this church on top of the actual place where Jesus was buried, right? So some of it is preserved. When you go all the way in, you can see a little bit of the original walls. And then there were so many miracles, right, Father? The scientists were just going crazy with the readings that they were getting off of all other instruments about there was like some tremendous power that was present, and their instruments were picking it up. This electromagnetic force.
But also, nice thing about the new edition, which is also because of that, they actually even left a small window that you can actually see the bare stone. People, sadly in the Holy Land, there is what's called a garden tomb, and because the Protestants, and there are good things about the Protestants too, but one thing that they said, like, come on, this is the tomb of Christ, because they have the vision of the movies. So about like, I don't know, like a mile north of here, there's a place that looks like what Golgotha would look in back in the time of Jesus Christ. But for us, it's very obvious that an Orthodox person will build a chapel around this and put beautiful candelia on that. So, and of course, every year we have the holy light that comes from here. So that's something that is
That's it.
beautiful.
Well, Father, I just want you to know I have 8 minutes left, and I have another meeting, believe it or not, tonight that I have to start. So
I know
we might not make it through, but let's keep going forward.
Go.
So this is the church, right, of the resurrection now?
Right. So like you can see, this is a massive church, and so now if I would do an about face, that's where I'd be looking at the tomb of
It was
Christ.
the only church that has a direct connection to go up to Golgotha from the Church of the Resurrection.
Right, and from the altar, you can actually go straight to Golgotha, which again, you can see that those are some of the beautiful things we have.
Amazing.
Father, you want to explain what this is right here in the bottom of the picture?
Is that the Ophalos?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of a peculiar, legendary thing and so forth. But since Father mentioned it, they say it's the center of the world, and in one sense, if you look at the Middle East, it's kind of the center of the world. But it has a hole, and from the hole, it says it goes like to the center of the earth, and you can hear the voices of the souls that did not make it to paradise or struggling in Hades. And so forth.
Sound because they have covered up there, so you don't hear them.
And
yelling.
there's 5 metallic strips on that, and it says that through the centuries they've been lost, and there's only 1 strip left. And it says, and again, these are all legendary things, and so it's not like the core of our faith, but it says when the last piece leaves, it's also be the end of the world.
And
so
the second coming of
Christ. 4 out of the 5 pieces already are gone. And I don't know if you want to add anything else to it.
And they do have it covered in such a way that you can not hear them now, because it was very scary for the people to hear those sounds.
Here, when we're around the tomb of Christ, you can see how the steel metal things were holding the tomb of Christ up. That's why it was needed to be reconstructed, the whole thing. So now these steel things are not there anymore. And here's the actual entrance back into the actual tomb of Christ.
We're going in.
Of course, you also have to deal with a grumpy monachos.
So it's actually 2 rooms, right? And this is the room that when they celebrate the liturgy, they use this as the altar table. But that stone right there, placed inside of the table, is from the stone that was rolled away from the tomb.
Exactly.
And then inside of this smaller entrance is the actual tomb of Christ. So here's looking in from the outside as pilgrims walk in, and then you walk in and you walk out the same way that you come in. You walk out of the tomb of Christ backwards.
So this is the inner room. Again, I feel I'm very proud when I say Christos Anesti, like it's right there, in Greek. That's beautiful. And I'm not being like Greek man, whatever the case may be. It's an honor. So this is the actual slab. No, I mean not the actual slab. Probably there's coverings about it, but this is where Jesus Christ was laid in the tomb. Okay.
Right. This is the cover. Underneath this is the actual tomb. Saint Paisius, when he came in, God granted him to see the actual tomb underneath it. And he even explained to people, he said, "Oh, I can see the tomb underneath these stones."
And we see the actual cut there. You see the cut, and according that there should be 1 piece, but somebody did not. And with a knife, he wanted to break it, but it became like soft, like dough. So therefore, he was not able to break it, but it left a cut mark in the actual.
Right
there. I'd like dough.
Yeah. This is where right on top of right there is where the actual patriarch prays, and a fire accumulates on top of there, and from there, spontaneously from there, on that slab that you're seeing there, the patriarch kneels just like the people are kneeling here, and then a fire accumulates like in a miraculous way, and from there he takes the bunch of 33 candles that he has, 1 for every year of Jesus Christ's life on earth, and then he comes out from this to the outer room. From there there's little small holes, he gives the light out, and then he comes out from the main door that we just saw. Is this the behind the tomb? Is this the place of Arimathea's grave? I think so, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so right next to Jesus Christ's grave is Saint Joseph Arimatheas, and he's buried here together with Nicodemus. And this is where the Syriacs, another Christian group, have their chapel. So again, no comparison to what we have. But this place has a lot of soot, so it's kind of hard to see things. You can even see the icon there. Everything's like really sooty and dark. I'm assuming this is an inside, right?
This is on the way to the place where the cross was found.
So as we're going down, remember there's a corridor that goes all around the church. So now at one point in the southeastern corner, you descend down, 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 down. Because remember, Golgotha was on a hill, so you can actually see the hill that is at. And the cross had fallen down on the east side, rolling down this hill, and it was buried. As you pass by an Armenian chapel.
You can see the Armenian writing.
And which is dedicated also to St. Constantine and Helen, I think, this chapel.
But that's Noah's Ark, isn't it? Because Noah's Ark is considered to be in Armenia.
It's on the Mount of Ararat in Turkey.
Yeah, between Turkey and
Turkey.
Yeah, Turkey.
It's at Ararat.
So you descend even further from that chapel, and this is where you finally arrive, all the way to down the pit. And this is actually where the cross was actually found. That's where we see the cross on the ground there. On the right, behind the glass, is different, very ancient mosaics, not mosaics, murals, Byzantine art. So this is where the cross is actually
and
was
this
actually
is where the
found.
skull of Adam was supposed to be found also.
No.
We're going to get to that. This is the skull of Adam, right? This is now, we're underneath the
This is actually, yeah,
the
it's not the
Golgotha.
skull of action, but it's right next to it. But that was a staircase that led behind Golgotha.
Mhm.
But under Golgotha, so that's hardly ever open. But I've seen documentaries that through this door, and then right under Golgotha, you can actually, this is the chapel that's called the tomb of Adam, and according to tradition, the Orthodox tradition, when Noah got into the ark, he also took the bones of Adam, which never had melted away because of the sin. And then eventually he buried them in this place. So when the earthquake happened, the earth was, you see, there's a crack coming from above downwards, and in the little hole there, that's where Adam's skull was. So what we see in the iconography is not just simply symbolic, but also that Jesus Christ's blood ran down and actually washed away the Adam's
We see
skull.
that the crucifixion of Christ always.
And right next to this room here is also the reliquary of the patriarchate.
Yeah. So, Father, it is 9:30, 8:30.
They're also saying Saint Helen, where she threw the money so the people could start digging.
So
Right.
yes, I understand you have to go.
There's a window thing. No,
Next, Father Moon, next week, next Wednesday, I won't be here, Wednesday or Thursday. So I'll be going to do
Okay. So I'll let everybody know if we're going to continue or not. Just quickly, this is the church built on Golgotha,
I would
the
call it
place
more
where
a
Jesus
chapel.
was crucified.
Yeah,
Yeah, the chapel.
Within this whole mega structure, again, you can see that right under, they have built an altar table right above that, and right under there, that's where the actual place that the cross was.
And you can actually reach down and in.
And venerated.
Yes. And this is a view from the side, so you can see the stone on top of Golgotha.
Right.
Yes, and you actually can see the crack a little bit on the front panel. You see the front panel of that window? You see the window? You can see the crack. You see the front, right in the front panel of the glass. See right there, you see the crack exactly. And it goes all the way down to what we saw before. So the crack continues down. And the stone is white like this.
So everyone, I'm sorry I have to cut it short. We're not quite at the end, but
we're going to meet next week, Father, once you finish up without me. And I had a blessing to be with you for the last few weeks.
Father, yes, it was our blessing. We probably will take a week or maybe even 2 weeks off But I'm going to continue with this series of We Are Pilgrims on the Earth. We're going to start going to some other places closer to home as well. I have somebody who might talk to us a little bit about the monastery in Essex. We might visit a couple other places in Greece. I don't know yet, but then also some places in America. So I'm thinking we might just continue this in the fall, and God willing, we can have you with us again, Father. So thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you, Demetria and Jane.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much.
Was this, Lynette, a
Really
very quick question
wonderful.
before you go. Was this clear? Are you able to follow along? I mean, because we were
Yes.
there. Okay, that's great.
thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I was happy to share with all of you.